Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
Hey guys, Amir Reiter here with the Transform Sales Podcast. I have my guest, my friend, Caleb Sinn, CEO of SocialBloom. Caleb, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, man. I love that headset. It looks fucking awesome on you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Is that the
PLT Focus.
PLT? Is that the PLT 2022?
It is the PLT
headset.
Focus. Yeah, I know. It's one of the best.
So before you introduce yourself, I'd like to say that I remember how I met you by filling out your Facebook form for performance only ads.
Yeah.
I just had to fill it out because I was like, well, who is this guy at SocialBloom? And I remember chatting with you, and then here we are, I would say a year later, and I actually bugged you to come visit Colombia, and you're here in Medellin. Why don't you tell everybody who's listening how you got into outsourced sales, and the bottom line is you're a 22-year-old business owner. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I think I was doing outbound. Like my first cold call was in high school, and I was pretty good at kind of just being like a SDR. And then over time, I just realized it was more fun and challenging to go out on my own to do it for companies and outsource it. So, I started in like Upwork, getting freelance gigs, I guess you could call it, and then pretty much just building it out from there. So that's how I got into it. And I like doing it too, so yeah.
Why are most Gen Zs lazy and you're not?
I don't think it's that. I just think a lot of Gen Zers don't like calling, maybe. I don't like direct confrontation.
If you don't like calling, you're lazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
You don't need to be politically correct on this show.
No, I just think it is tough. Like the first time I made a cold call, I was definitely sweating bullets. Now it's easier, but I've been doing it a while, so I just started earlier.
So you fell in love with the game,
mm-hmm.
and you got into the game. Did any of this have to do with making money?
Well, yeah. I like making money as well. So like it's like there's multiple benefits of doing it on your own. I think money is one of them versus when I was doing it for a company.
So for today's show, what I really want to know is I want to focus on what buyers do wrong, what mistakes they're making, whether they're engaging with outsourced agencies. And that's my first question. What is the top mistake that you see buyers making when they fill out your ads, when they hit your clutch profile, and when they contact SocialBloom?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is they don't already know their numbers. So our job is obviously to book those qualified meetings and then for the client to close. But if the client doesn't really have a good offer, or they don't understand what their offer is, or their ICP, or their closing rates, it kind of makes the whole entire process a lot harder. So I think it's like a lot of companies just don't have the data needed.
You just threw a lot of buzzwords out. What happens if we have a listener right now? They don't know what an ICP is. They don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah, I think so. ICP, ideal customer profile, like who is their buyer, who is a good fit for what they offer. And then your offer is obviously like, what do you sell? That's a big one, right? I think that one's pretty straightforward.
It hurts my heart seeing that the first mistake that you say is basically all of them at once, because I know they're doing it all at once.
Yeah.
So they're coming at you without knowing their numbers, without knowing their ICP, without knowing their offer.
Yeah, which, by the way, I think is actually fine. Like we've ran campaigns where through outbound we help them discover that, but you also can't come in and say like, we don't have an ICP, we don't have any like past customers, but we want 100 qualified meetings per month. That just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't add up. It's okay if you want to learn who your ICP is, but you have to take those steps to get there before you just start, throwing in SQL.
Listening to what you said has me thinking too, right? It's like your natural response wasn't they just come in without knowing their numbers, right, and then talking about it, right? You mixed ICP, numbers, and a few other things, which also kind of has me reverse thinking that, in a way, are you saying that your buyer's biggest mistake is almost thinking that they can achieve all these things at once? Like, are they coming in wanting unrealistic goals with unrealistic campaigns, and it's like all of it at the same time?
I think a lot of times it is, because I think that's the biggest mistake. But there are people coming that like have everything, but maybe they're just missing a couple things. It's just not as common as somebody who doesn't have all the things like aligned. Yeah.
Do you think that so basically, are buyers hiring outsourced sales agencies because they're being proactive and want to generate revenue, or because they're responding to a problem? They can't do it internally. They don't know the numbers. They don't have an ISP. They don't internally. Then they hire you, and they're coming with all these problems.
I think what it is I think a lot of people who haven't done sales in the past think like an outsourced SDR agency, appointment setting, an OSP is like the solution to the entire sales process. But they're not. They're a key to it, right? Like the sales process is connected to the fulfillment as well. So if the fulfillment's on order, the sales aren't going to be in order as well. So it's not like, let's just get like an SDR team, for example, and our whole entire sales problem will be fixed. That's not how it works, right? I think it starts with the offer and the fulfillment before sales.
That all makes sense. What do you do to educate buyers about the full process and what they need to do to be a good customer? How do you speak to somebody who comes to you without these things in place? What are you saying to them?
Yeah, I tell them the best place to start is to get customers, to get buyers, to get somebody using your product or service. And the way to do that is through outbound. It's just like slower to start versus let's just throw SQLs in, right? It's like, let's get some people on the phone with you on a discovery call. Let's get feedback from them. Okay, somebody does convert. What does that look like? How did you fulfill that? Whether it was a positive experience, was it negative? If so, either one of those, why was it positive or negative? And then targeting similar people going forward. It's like the snowball effect. Like you start small, and the more you roll that snowball through the snow, it gets bigger and bigger. That's how I view it, at least. So.
Are we? If I'm hearing you correctly, are we rolling into like, hey, these are some problems in the beginning of the sales cycle? They're not knowing their numbers, they're not knowing their ICP, right? And then are you saying that buyers are also making mistakes while agencies are performing the work by not closing the loop with communication?
I think it's possible.
Because what I'm hearing almost is it's like, hey, you're here to hire an outsourced sales agency, but the fun just begins. It's not like you chose SocialBloom and boom, right? It's like now you need to communicate with me to make an adjustment, right?
I think there's two different parts. There's that with a startup that's like in that real startup phase where they don't have a ton of past customers. That's where that would happen, and that communication needs to be there to connect everything. But then there are companies that are 10 years old. They know their ICP. They maybe just don't know how to get the email inside of the inbox, right? How to stay out of spam, or how to use the tools like an auto dialer. They need to take that step. So I think there's two different types of companies there. Yeah.
Interesting. What company do you prefer to work with?
Okay, both. I mean, they're just different.
No. Politically, you can't work with both.
No.
You got one hand.
You
can only reach out to one. Who is it?
I like the startups. It's harder, but it's
Why
more
do you like
challenging,
startups?
but it's fun. Because it's fun. Like, it's challenging because they don't even really know what's going on. So I feel like I have a bigger role, and my team has a bigger role in like getting that company to where they want to be, or getting that next round of funding. That's really exciting.
Is this Caleb Sinn, the prideful, I'm having fun helping startups, or is Caleb Sinn that I'm running a profitable agency speaking? Which Caleb is this?
Having fun, for sure. Caleb having fun. You asked me which one. There's a difference between like which one should I build a scalable company off of, and then there's also like which one do I like working with.
Why do you like torturing yourself?
I don't think I like working. Okay. I guess you could ask like that, but no, I think they're.
Well, I think it's great. Listen, a lot of people hiring outsourced sales companies listening to this. Hey, if you have a startup and you want to hire an agency who loves the hard thing of hard things, Caleb at SocialBloom.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I don't want to see you suffering, Caleb, personally, but I know I know you're 22 years old, and I know whatever comes your way is just going to make you stronger. So if you want to raise your hand and help those startups. So you like the fun, you like the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where a startup came to you for help and you were really bought into helping them and things just didn't work out?
Yeah, like didn't work out. Like the results
You got
weren't big up to
fired.
the goals. Got
You got
fired.
fired. But
Yeah,
you were like,
that's
you were
happened.
like,
Yeah, for
tell me
sure.
about that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what happened was it just like the fulfillment side for a startup wasn't there. So it's like, who do we even reach out to? And that's really hard. So again, like I like doing it, but it's way more time consuming. So it can take a longer ramp period than that other company that has something like in place already. And they've been around for 10 years, right?
Let's focus more on startups, right? So I think I asked my question about what do buyers in general make mistakes, right? But is there,
Yeah.
if we hone in on startups, is there something that startups specifically make, like a mistake that they're like if you were talking to a startup and you're like,
Yeah.
this is what you got to do to get ready to build a repeatable, scalable business development program with an outsourced agency, what are startups missing?
Yeah, I think it's okay, who are the titles that like are the actual buyers of your product or service? What are like the segments? But then again, like the pain points. So like who do we reach out to, but also to like what are the pain points that your product or service solves? That way we can put that into our outbound. Because if that's not there, then
I know what
that's
you're
when
really
I don't see
saying.
it.
I know what you're really saying.
But
Startups should be running market validation campaigns.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But no one wants to hear that. That's why I don't say it
No
like that.
one
Because
wants
if
to
you
hear it, but on the show they're
yeah,
going to hear it. That we're
okay,
this is
well,
CloudTask. This is the Chance for Sales podcast.
yeah,
We
okay,
work with
that's
all
fair. That's fair.
agencies. We need to tell the truth.
That's fair.
So and that's, it's a good thing to talk about, right? Because we live in a world where people want to hear what they want to hear, and
Hmm.
if they hear what they want to hear and lose 50K, they're oftentimes, I wouldn't say happier, but they'll go down that path much more often than they will hearing the honesty. So startups will come to you and you're listening to them. They're like, yo, we have a 9-month sales cycle, we think, but we need an
Hmm.
ROI in 3 months, right?
Yeah.
You tell them you need a market validation campaign and you know that they're going to go to somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. But that's part of the qualification, because otherwise you get wrapped in with them and the expectations aren't aligned, and then it's going to be bad. So I think, yeah.
What happens to the startups that they just want to hear what they want to hear, and then they go to another agency, and the agency just says, "You don't need market validation. We're going to get you 15 meetings per month. You're going to make money." Then they spend 15K, call it 15, 20K in 3 months. They got no more money left. How do you help them not go down that path?
I don't know. It's tough. Honestly, this is my opinion. It's probably wrong, but I think at the end of the day, that founder, that person who made that final decision, they have to like change their mindset and how they view it. Honestly, I can do as much education as I can, but at the end of the day, it does come down to the founder. That's my point of view, honestly.
Like this
I'm
is
gonna
why
I'm
things like OPEC were created, right? OPEC was created for oil so that everybody controls the price of oil and nobody's lowering it, right?
oh
And
yeah.
do you think in a way that our industry should be speaking the same language and holding the same standards? Like, do you think that people are hurting the sales outsourced industry by saying yes to everything and just not holding these kind of standards together?
Yeah, like you mean saying yes to everything, like that, like another agency that just was like, oh, you don't need market validation, like come in. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm like
Yeah, yeah,
every time I lost a deal
yeah.
in the last 2 years, I put a saved email to respond back to how's the campaign going. I got back like a crazy amounts of it went horrible, and there was no coming back. They didn't come back. I told them the truth. They went to someone
Yeah.
else. Their campaign failed. I reached back out to them. They don't come back to the outsourced sales. It's like one time they're done, right?
No, yeah, because what that mindset is at that point is like, oh,
I
outbound
tried this
doesn't work.
before.
Yeah, I tried it before. Outbound doesn't work, so I'm never gonna try it again. Which that's like a bad mindset for anything. Same with like hiring people. You're gonna get bad hires. Doesn't mean you should never hire again. How do you improve the process?
Well, why do you think people are able to hire sales reps and fire them over and over again and never stop? But once they hire an outsourced sales agency, they try it once and say, I tried it and it didn't work.
I think because the culture around it, you look like a cooler company if you're hiring for SDRs, and then you have like a bunch of SDRs. I think like there's like a component of culture around it, almost
Is
like
it
a
is it
influencer.
culture, or is it just basic tribal you versus me?
I don't know. It might be basic tribal. Okay. That's a way too deep question. I don't know. It could be.
I like
It
it
could
deep.
be tribal. I don't know.
Well,
I
because you
think
see
it's a
it
cultural
happening,
thing.
right? Like so, if you pay $10,000 on a W-2, or you pay $10,000 to SocialBloom, is that
Mhm.
$10,000 different in the eyes of the bank account?
Oh, in the bank account? No. I mean, it's still $10,000,
It's
but the
not.
value's
It's
different.
not. But is it different in the eyes of the buyer?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a different offer for sure.
So, but why?
Well, there's just
So now
differences
it's getting
between them.
deep.
I
If it's
feel.
not you versus me, or you versus them, then what is it?
Well, I mean, okay? Let's rewind here. Are you saying like is this like SDRs, basically like in-house SDRs versus an outsourced agency that's
Yeah, yeah.
sold to book
Like
SQL?
it's just a fact. They hire and fire SDRs all the
Yeah,
time and never stop. But if they do an agency, they say, I tried it before and I never do it again. They don't say it about sales reps. I have my beliefs, which you already know, and I'm just trying to find out.
the tribal, not tribal thing.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is. I think that the W-2 is a way for governments to track income to get taxes, but I think somehow,
Yeah,
in order for get people on W-2s to pay taxes, you got to make them think that, like, hey man, that W-2, he's part of your team. He's internal. That guy, that vendor, he ain't on your team, because the
yeah,
$10,000 is the same money.
yeah. I I mean, I've hired in-house SDRs for ourselves, right? And like we're an outsourced agency, and one of the big reasons is, to be honest, like it felt good. Like, oh, I've got like an SDR teams. That's why I thought it was like a cultural thing of like that's just how it should be done, is in-house SDRs. And we've tried stuff like that, right? And I think it's fine if you have a process so that you can actually track like if somebody is hitting like the right number, like I don't know, scorecards, right? Versus somebody who isn't. But if you don't have that and you haven't had a process like that created, then you're failing those in-house SDRs too, because they're not there to just make everything. They're there to follow the process and yeah, add value where they can, but there still needs to be a system there for them. If not, it's like, well then you need something else, and that's where we do come in, is where we are building that. We've had some clients that like they worked with us for quite a while. We did great. It was an awesome relationship, and then they started bringing in in-house SDRs, and then they took that process that we created. You know.
I think that makes sense. So for
Mm.
me, like obviously we're working with a lot of agencies. We're talking to agencies. I know agencies that's their play. They're like, hey, we do this for
Yeah.
you to then do in-house. Do you think that people should be more honest about that? Like, do you think buyers would be? Do you think buyers sometimes kind of play it like, hey, we're going to hire a SDR team, we're great, but what they really want is the process to hire in-house, and they don't tell you, and they're just not being clear about it. Do you ever see that happen or feel that it happens?
Um. Yeah, I've seen it happen, but I also, and we at SocialBloom, we make it clear that we've had that happen to us before, and that's like not a separate offer, but that is like a path we can go down. So I've never had it like where they were secretly taking stuff from us and like putting it somewhere else. You know?
Do you think it would make sense to make it clear to be like, hey, this is a
Yeah.
package for startups. We're gonna
Yeah.
give you the framework. You can hire your in-house per people on it.
I think it would. I just have to go back and see, okay, here are the companies that did that, and then what does that look like? Instead
I
of
got
just
you
like,
some
oh,
homework. You have productized, my friend.
yeah, I got a lot
I
of
think so
homework on this
too,
type
to
of
be
stuff.
honest with you. I think so as well, and I think that all of these things should be a little bit clearer, right? And I think people can get a lot more just being honest and direct. And I think none of it's wrong. 2 + 2 = 4, right? So like if you're gonna hire SocialBloom to generate $1 million in pipeline, you're most likely going to need 5 million the next year. So if you think that you're going to hire an outsourced agency that's performing XYZ to hire in-house, it's an interesting concept of hire one and fire the other, because if you look at the whole concept of A/B testing and protection and safety, it would say that they probably should keep on the outsourced agency, hire in-house on top of it. The agency gets 2, in-house gets 2. You
Yeah,
got 4, right? But now you got a backup. Have you ever seen any
yeah,
customers that hired you, fired you, and then came back?
yeah, yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
Tell me about a story about that and what you learned from it and what listeners can learn from that event.
Yeah, I think it was one of our first customers. And like we were doing fine. It wasn't like we were crushing the campaign, but it was like a handful of SQLs getting booked per month. It was a profitable campaign. They were making more money and profits than they were spending on us. But they wanted more. They wanted more and more. And we told them that like let's slowly build up to that. And they're like, no, so they left and they came back because they couldn't find something else that like for that same process that we were doing. So now they're with us. Yeah.
So 2 + 2 = 4. You probably shouldn't fire a successful agency. I have had people call me back and said, "Hey, I tried outsourcing 3 years ago," and then they're like, "We just closed $1 million deal that was associated with the outsourced company 2 years ago."
Yeah.
Right, and then they hire you back and they lose all that momentum. What do you say to those people?
I think what it is like if you're gonna just work with an agency or anyone, like just have enough so that you can do it for a long period of time instead of like let's try it for 2 months and if I make $1 million we can continue. I think it's the way that you go about buying. Like have
sense.
it like long term, like or at least you don't have to sign a 2-year long contract, but at least in the back of your head say like going into it, let's try and make this long term.
What is let's just pretend we live in a world with no contracts, right? And like no one's obligated to say about like what is that time frame where an agency starts to deliver for a company? Is it where is that like that trough?
Yeah. Like the ramp, like before they, yeah. I don't know. I think it varies. I think it varies a lot. Like
what's it for you?
I
come to you, I'm a startup. When am I like?
You're
You're
a startup. It's going to be about a month, 2 months before you're really seeing SQLs getting booked for sure. If you're like a well-established company with SocialBloom, usually in that first month we're at least seeing somebody getting booked and being leads because you have your ICP laid out. You already know that stuff versus a company that doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I push back on you in that one. I think personally, from knowing you, that you bust your balls and you beat industry averages by performing faster and sooner, right? I would think that 4 to 6 months is the sweet spot for when you really could see a program getting started. Obviously, during month 1, 2, and 3, there has to be full-time activity and progression, right? We're not talking like someone's doing nothing for 4 months. But I remember when CloudTask was a service company, we used to be month by month, and we had high churn. We had upset clients. We changed to 6-month contracts, and our clients got happier. They got the results they wanted. And now, don't get me wrong. Like an agreement is not good if someone's never going to get the results they want and they're just whatever, right?
Of course, yeah. They should, yeah.
I know some agencies that do 12-month agreements but do a 4-month opt-out. And I like it. I like it because I see the data, right? Like as a buyer, as a CEO, I am buying things all the time. Actually, I'm like negotiating with G2 Crowd and like I'm actually upset with them because they're trying to be like, get a deal for year 1 and the deal in year 2. And I'm like looking at them being like, why the fuck would you want me to sign a contract for year 2 if I didn't prove an ROI? And like, I know they raised $96 million. They don't give a fuck about me. They want to pay back investors. It's very bad customer centric. But like knowing that I run a marketplace now and knowing that a lot of the agencies that do month by month churn much faster and have lower success happy scores than contracts, and knowing my days at CloudTask, I find myself feeling that a 12-month agreement with a 4-month out benefits the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, sure. But like the way that I look at it though too is it depends. Like we signed a couple month by month projects, right? And that's because we know we can like that's what the prospect wanted, and B, we've done similar campaigns, so we know in month 1 we're gonna crush it for them, and then we have like it's.
I don't know how you crush it in month 1, And I want you to stop doing that.
Well,
Not
okay, it's
normal.
hitting the goals. It's hitting the goals in month one. The goals like laid out. So like crushing it is different in everyone's opinion, right? Like you could say like one SQL a month is crushing it. It's not. But if you're following like
You have to stop
the
you have to
agreed,
start underperforming in month one.
well, no, it doesn't always happen like that. I mean, I
Not
make
everybody's
mistakes too, and
SocialBloom
it
and
takes a
Caleb.
while. No, I don't. Sometimes it takes longer. I'm just saying, I'm giving like examples of where it works out really well within that first month, right? So, yeah.
But what happens when you do a fast start? You get lucky, and then the expectations are super high and not realistic. Because at the end of the day, it's all about an ROI, right? So like, they don't know their numbers. Biggest problem, right? So like, I've had people where, because people come to us from marketplace, right? So like they've come to us when they've outsourced before. We help them guide them through. I've done some math for some people, and I pull it up, and I'm like, you fired this agency, and they had a 500% ROI. Yeah. Why would you do that? And then they go like this. They're like, I don't know. They're like, I was spending $12K a month, and I emotionally felt like it wasn't working. I'm like, well, you didn't know your numbers. Problem number one.
Yeah.
Problem number one. That had happened so many times, right? So let me ask you one last thing that like just really focus on. Who are your best customers? We know they're startups. We know that they're companies that you like to highly engaged CEOs and leaders. Are they software or service? Pick one. Like he's gonna
Wait, let me rephrase it. You mean like that I like to work with the most, or like that we do, or like that are most successful?
Someone's listening to this podcast and they need success.
Yeah.
Who can you help the most? And you can't pick service and you can't pick software.
I'm gonna pick service. I'm gonna pick service.
Is that on your onboarding with CloudTask? Did you say service or software? What's on the website?
I don't know, to be honest. Probably both. We have both guys.
That's the problem. That you don't need to be everything to everybody, Caleb.
No, you don't. You don't. But I don't think we aren't. We aren't. Okay, but service and software can be combined together. We have some clients that are like both a service and a software.
You're doing a really good job of convincing yourself.
No, I'm just saying like in a lot of places, even software companies, their bigger enterprise deals are also going to involve a service alongside that software.
So then why didn't you say hybrid? Why didn't you say my best customers
I said both.
Are software companies and services. Guess what?
I just didn't say hybrid.
Don't sell their services. Service companies are professional services. This is after they buy it, right? You work at NetSuite, you buy software, then you pay quarterly for services. So they're usually not both like the way you are, but I do hear what you're saying. Let's talk about So I'm a service company. I come to you. What can I expect from you?
On the discovery call or afterwards?
Like
that's a very, I don't know. That's a very like if they email me or if
I'm a service company. I got a $30,000 average contract value. What can I expect from you?
Probably initially laying out like what do they want, like their goals, revenue, how many meetings do we have to get there, what do we have to do internally to do that, can we do that, are they a good fit, if so, pricing, and then you start onboarding and weekly optimizing from there, I'd say.
What's your retention rate?
I'm not sure, to be honest, off the top of my head. I'd have to pull that up, but we have a pretty good retention rate.
I know it's high because we work with you. I just don't know how high it can be when you get to 50 million in revenue, Caleb. You're gonna have to say no to people.
There's some people we can't work with.
Anybody listening to this who's actually thinking about hiring an outsourced agency, you can see that I'm pushing Caleb on like who is not good fit, because you're gonna have a tendency as well when you tell someone like Caleb, you're gonna come to him and you're gonna say, we target e-commerce, financial, retail, apparel. You're going to do the same thing as this. You do the same thing. Same thing. And if you focus on that one industry, that one persona you help, you will have a smoother cycle and you'll have a smoother experience with an agency, because it's a perpetual cycle. we're all saying yes a little too much, right? And it's hard to say no, right? But what you'll find is that the people who say no know their numbers, know their math, know their product market fit, right? So that's a big thing. Caleb, you're the man. I appreciate you. Ironically enough, Caleb's actually downstairs. Caleb's been here for working in Medellin. He was in Minnesota. I told him to come down to Colombia. He's here for the winter, and he's actually become a good buddy of ours, giving us good advice, getting good feedback loop. Where can they find you, Caleb? If somebody wants
SocialBloom. Yeah, our website socialbloom.io, or you can look my name up on LinkedIn and connect with me.
Or he's gonna
or
find
you can email.
Right?
You can email. Yeah, you can email me. Caleb at
You better
SocialBloom.
find Caleb in SocialBloom first before he finds you.
Yeah, that is true.
Because that's how I found him. His ads found me, right? It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So Caleb might seem like a nice, innocent 22-year-old, but he
I
is
am.
a SDR killer. Literally.
Yeah.
He's taking down.
No. You're making it look bad now. No, I love SDR.
I'm not making you look bad. You're crushing it. You're doing well. You're passionate. You love helping people. You're honest, and you're one of our top performing agencies. So by being on the show, man, you're not looking bad. You're looking awesome. Like, look at the headset you got on right there. I would probably put down one button, but you look good.
You put what?
I probably unbutton one button, but you look good, man. You look good.
Wow. Yeah. Keep it classy. This is the PLT focus.
Guys, Caleb Sinn, he's everywhere. If you don't find him, he will find you. Caleb, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for being on the show and sharing some golden nuggets with everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Amir. Appreciate it.
You got it. Take care, man.
Yeah.